It took a neighbor's 42 seconds to gut the 30 years I spent taking care of my wife. The clip is still in my head. Lena striding down our driveway at 9:18 p.m. October 12th, ponytails swinging, laughter sharp as frost, and sliding into a black SUV without so much as touching the handrail. I didn't know a heart could freeze while you were still standing upright, but there I was, Columbus, Ohio, autumn air running its cold fingers across my neck, unable to look away from a phone screen. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and tell us where you're listening from. Mrs. Nguyen held her phone like a secret. "Mark," she whispered, "I think you should see this." Her doorbell camera had caught it all. Our porch light, the quick, confident steps, the quirk of Lena's smile I hadn't seen in years, except in old photos. No cane, no cardigan pulled tight across the shoulders. Just ease. 42 seconds that made liars out of pillboxes and pity. I walked back into my kitchen, set my keys on the entry dish like always, and stared at the walker by the hall table. The rubber tips had little half-moons worn into them from decades of shuffling. I'd missed promotions for that sound, retired early for that sound, told myself this house was my retirement and every receipt I saved was my pension. On the table, a red rubber band cinched a stack of invoices from Pritchard Medical Group. Concierge fees, home visits, flare-up calls. I used to feel safe weighing the month in paper and ink. Tonight, those pages felt like a trick deck. The oven timer dinged and I flinched. I'd put on a roast for Lena, salt, pepper, planning to shred it soft. Gentle on the stomach, she liked to say when the episodes hit. I poured decaf into her favorite mug, the one with chipped rim and blue cornflowers, and watched the steam drift. Decaf because caffeine made the tremors worse. I'd said no so many times to trips, to friends, to weekends away, because no was easier than watching her hurt. Now I replayed that laugh from the footage, a clean bell note in the night. And I couldn't remember the last time she'd laughed like that with me. I took out my caretaker journal, the black one with coffee rings from 2012, and wrote, 9:18 p.m., neighbor's cam, Lena walking unaided. Laughing, black SUV. The tip of my pen left a dent where the ink pooled on. Laughing. I copied the video to a thumb drive and slid it into a sandwich bag because that's how I store important things when I'm afraid, cheap and airtight. In our living room, Lena's blanket lay folded with the neatness of a nurse's square. The walker waited where I always leave it, so she can reach it from the couch. I couldn't make sense of those kind objects anymore. I checked the smart lock log on my phone. Front door opened at 9:15 p.m., closed at 9:17. My hands were steady. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like a husband failing an illness. I felt like a man reading a map he hadn't known existed. I turned off the kitchen light. The house hummed, furnace kicking twice before catching, the way it always does in October. I said nothing to Lena, who texted bad day. On the couch, at 9:23, I answered, got it. Then I pressed my palm to the cool metal of the fireproof box where I keep deeds and wills and watched my breath fog the lid. Tomorrow, I decided, I would verify everything. Proof before fury, paper before fire. Grief is loud in the morning. Betrayal is quiet at night. I woke on Sunday, October 13th, to the same house, but a different gravity. It pulled at the corners of everything, the curtains, the mug rack, my shoulders. I brewed coffee and didn't pour a second cup. The walker stood ready by the couch, like a dutiful soldier who didn't know the war had changed sides. Lena came into the kitchen wearing the oatmeal cardigan with the loose elbow thread. She held the cane with the 4 rubber feet and blinked the slow blink she used when she wanted me to notice the effort. Bad night, she said, as if her text at 9:23 hadn't already laid down that track. Could you button this for me? Hands are useless today. My fingers hovered over the button. That single second of hesitation felt like a confession no priest could untangle. I buttoned it anyway, because the body learns habits long before the mind accepts evidence. She smelled like the lemony detergent I bought in bulk at Costco. She leaned into the cane. I watched the angle of her body, the way her weight settled. I thought of the video, 42 seconds where gravity had been kinder, We made it to the 9 a.m. service at St. Andrew's, a short walk if you're honest about your legs. We drove because we always drive for Lena. The usher, Earl, asked, "How's she doing?" And I smiled with all my teeth, because the lie wasn't mine yet, not fully. During the hymn, Lena sat, eyes closed, palms up, the picture of fatigue. I tried to sing, but my voice sounded like it belonged to someone who had swallowed a wire. Back home, I set the table and then cleared it without serving anything. Instead, I did the thing I do when my world is tilting. I lined it up in columns. I pulled the red rubber band off the Pritchard invoices and spread them left to right by month. Concierge retainer $1,200. Home visits $2,240 for September 28th. Emergency flare-up phone consults, $95 appearing like hiccups down the page. I dug out the CVS receipts, the anti-nausea meds, the antispasmodics, the sleep aids, dated, circled, sometimes bought twice in a week because the pills spilled. I totaled the last 12 months in pencil. Then I walked the line backward, pulling manila folders from the credenza. Tracing our spending to 2010, the pencil trembled at $699, 842s. Every receipt on that table looked like a month of the life I will not get back. The oven timer dinged for the roast I had forgotten to start. I let it beep until the sound ran out of itself. I turned off the oven and listened to the silence rush back in. The smart lock log still showed 9:15 p.m., open 9:17 close. I scrolled to see if the garage keypad had reacted last night. Nothing unusual. I didn't know yet that the code would become its own character in this story. I took my caretaker journal, the black one, from the fireproof box and flipped to a page from 2018 where I had written, "Lena couldn't manage stairs. Carried laundry myself." The ink had bled a little, like a bruise over words. I opened to a fresh page and underlined the date, Oct 13, Sunday. I wrote down everything like it was evidence for a stranger to read later. 9 a.m. church, sat entire service. Noon table cleared. Receipts laid out. $699, $1,842 since 2010. I slid the neighbor's thumb drive into the box beside the deed to the house. My hands shook and steadied. Around 2, Lena asked for tea. I boiled water, watched the bubbles gather at the bottom like a crowd forming, and then pour themselves upward. "Do we still have the peppermint?" I asked, voice fused to normal. "It helps the nausea." "Top shelf," she said, then made a small pain sound when she reached for the mug. It occurred to me that I didn't know what was performance and what was pain. I didn't know if I'd ever know again. That was the moment the collapse finished its work. The floor of what I believed didn't simply fall away. It settled lower, into something like bedrock. In the afternoon, I did a small, practical thing. I photographed my keys on the entry dish. Laid out the same way I always lay them out, truck fob. House key, garage remote in a neat triangle. I took a second photo of the smart lock screen with the day's entries. I wasn't hoarding. I was archiving my own home so that when the story tried to lie to me, my phone could disagree. At 4, I called my sister Ruth. "I need you to look at our accounts," I said, picking the words like a lock. Ruth is a bank auditor in a town that takes numbers personally. "You okay?" she asked. I told her the neighbor's video existed. I told her about the bills, and then I didn't talk for a whole minute because my throat had decided it was a fist. "Send me what you have," she said softly. "I'll come by after work tomorrow. We'll do this right." Evening fell in that soft Ohio way, one shade darker every 15 minutes. I reheated the roast I had never cooked, then gave up. I made Lena toast, cut the crusts and set a single pat of butter on the plate. She ate 2 bites and winced. "Bad day," she said again, as if words could claim territory from facts. At 8:30, I took out a yellow legal pad and wrote 3 words at the top in capital letters: lawyer, bank, proof. Under that, I wrote a sentence I didn't know I believed yet. "I am not crazy." I stapled a CVS receipt to the page and underlined the date twice. I put the legal pad on top of the fireproof box. Note on a vault. Before bed, I stood at the front door and listened to the furnace do its 2 kicks before catching. I checked the peephole, as if betrayal were a thing that could come up the walk and knock. I looked back at the walker, at the cardigan on the chair, at my own reflection in the microwave door. In the glass, I looked like a man who had been handed a map and told he'd been living in the margins. I turned off the lights, put my phone face down, and lay on the couch, because our bedroom had started to feel like a place where I overheard my life. The house breathed around me, settling, creaking, its old wood remembering the last 30 years of footsteps. Sometime after midnight, I wrote one more line in the journal in the dark. Tomorrow I verify everything. Then I slept, not well, but honestly. If you want the truth, follow the money and the footsteps. On Monday, October 15th, I drove downtown to Reyes and Dalton Family Law. It was raining, thin October rain that looks like static against the windshield. I parked 2 blocks away and walked, the thumb drive in my pocket feeling heavier than my truck keys. Inside, Carla Reyes greeted me with a firm handshake and that calm voice attorneys practice in mirrors. "Start from the beginning," she said. I told her everything, from Lena's so-called illness to the video. I handed over the drive, the invoices, and my caretaker journal. Carla listened without interrupting, her pen moving in small loops. When I finished, she closed the folder and said, "Mark, if this is real, it's not just personal. It's financial fraud. We'll need to go by the book. No hacks, no traps, just paper and patience." She gave me a list of steps. Preserve evidence, freeze no accounts yet, document every inconsistency, and find a licensed private investigator. She slid a card across the desk. Deshaun Cole, Ohio Investigations. He's quiet and thorough. Start there. I left her office with a yellow folder labeled Preliminary, Evidence and the Weight of a Man Who's Just Been Deputized by His Own Heartbreak. Back home, Lena was on the couch watching a cooking show. "You went out early," she said. "Bank errands," I lied, wiping rain off my jacket. "Did you get milk?" "No, forgot." She smiled, that half smile people give when they're too sure of your routines. At 7 p.m., I met Deshaun at a diner near the interstate. He was younger than I expected, maybe late 30s, with a voice that sounded like gravel and calm. "You want this legal?" he asked. "Absolutely. Then here's what we do. I'll set up an external camera on your property line, pointed at your driveway, fully within your rights. You don't confront her. You observe. You collect. By Tuesday, the small black camera was mounted under my gutter. Legal discreet, motion activated. The first step of the plan was silence. That same day, my sister Ruth texted, "Found something weird." She sent a screenshot of recurring transfers, $1,950 every other Friday, to an account labeled Sunrise Wellness LLC. She added, "Looks like a health services company. Maybe the concierge bills?" But I'd never heard of Sunrise Wellness. I scrolled through our statements. The first transfer appeared in May 2021. I thought back. May was when Lena's mobility suddenly worsened. The overlap made my stomach tighten. I called our insurer and asked for detailed explanation of benefits, EOBs, for all concierge services billed under her name. A polite rep named Marisol said, "We'll mail them in 10 business days, sir." 10 business days. I marked it in my caretaker journal. That night, Lena texted from the couch while I was in the garage, "Can you heat up the soup? Legs bad today." I looked at the garage keypad. The light blinked twice. Newer model keeps digital logs. I remembered she'd asked me to change the code for safety last month. I checked the app. Code changed, September 19th. No request logged. I went inside and said nothing. I just made the soup. On Wednesday, Deshaun called. "Your wife left in the black SUV again. 11:43 a.m. drove east." "Same driver as the clip." I asked where she went. He said, "Place called Sunrise Wellness LLC, East 11th Avenue. Tiny building behind a gym." He sent a picture. The logo was painted in fading teal. Under it, a sign, "Private Therapy and Mobility Training by Appointment Only." The photo caught a man, mid-30s, muscular, adjusting a hoodie. Deshaun's caption read, "Tommy Hale, personal trainer." No medical license. I felt heat crawl up my neck. The name was unfamiliar, but the pattern wasn't. Someone had built a whole industry out of my wife's illness. At dinner that night, Lena said, "Dr. Pritchard's clinic is switching billing systems. If anything looks odd on our account, don't worry." She sipped tea without meeting my eyes. I said, "Sure thing," and I smiled like a man holding a detonator with the safety still on. Before bed, I opened my caretaker journal and wrote, Oct. 17, Sunrise Wellness LLC verified. Tommy Hale trainer. Deshawn on record. Carla notified. Then underlined, no confrontation. Only verification. Foreshadowing planted itself quietly that night. The garage keypad would change again. The 2:30 p.m. timestamps on bills would repeat like clockwork. And every piece of care, Lena claimed, would soon contradict a photo, a transfer or a GPS pin. When I closed the journal, the last thing I wrote was a promise to myself. Truth moves slow, but it never limps. Before you raise your voice, raise your files. That became my motto as October bled into its final week. From October 19th to 24th, I treated my life like a case file. Every lie needed a ledger. Every memory needed a timestamp. I spread my journals, invoices, and photos across the dining table, the same table where I'd spent years cutting Lena's food into small pieces. Now I was carving truth instead. On one sheet, I drew 2 columns, care and contradiction. Under care, I wrote, Oct. 3, Lena says stairs impossible. Opposite it, under contradiction, OCT 3, doorbell cam, 4 trips to SUV, carrying tote bag. Next line, Sep 28, Dr. billed 2:30 p.m. home visit. Opposite, Sep 28, I was home. House empty. 2:30 confirmed on Smart Lock app. The pattern built itself faster than I could process it. Lies didn't hide. They repeated until you learned their rhythm. Deshawn sent me photos every evening, discreetly time-stamped. On Oct. 22, he caught Lena stepping out of the black SUV wearing leggings, sneakers, and no trace of illness. She was moving briskly toward Sunrise Wellness. Behind her, the same man, Tommy Hale, carried a collapsible massage table. Deshawn's caption read simply, no cane, no cardigan, full mobility. I forwarded the photos to Carla, my attorney. She called 10 minutes later. Mark, we'll need to act carefully. No confrontation yet. I'm past confrontation, I said. I'm cataloging. Good, she replied. Then we filed for a financial restraining order, quietly. By October 23rd, Carla had drafted the motion, a legal stop sign to prevent any large withdrawals or transfers from our joint accounts. She called it a Rule 75 motion. To me, it was the first act of reclaiming my life. That evening, I changed the garage keypad code to something only I knew, my father's badge number from his years on the Columbus Fire Department. I texted Lena, fix the garage keypad. Codes reset for safety. The message timestamp read 7:11 p.m. She replied, thanks, love you. 3 words I once believed without audit. At night, I began locking my caretaker journals in a small, fireproof box I'd bought from Home Depot. I kept the key on my belt loop with my truck fob. I no longer left them in the kitchen drawer. Trust had become inventory. On October 24th, I roasted a chicken and set 2 plates like always. Lena came into the kitchen slower than usual, cane in hand, voice pitched weak. You've been quiet lately, she said. Just tired, I replied. Of what? She asked. Of pretending. The words slipped out before I could cage them. She blinked, but didn't respond. The oven timer dinged. She turned away to shut it off, leaving the cane upright beside her chair for a heartbeat too long, standing by itself, unsupported. After dinner, she went to bed early. I sat at the table and reread my journal entries from the last decade. I saw patterns I'd ignored, flare-ups before holidays, recoveries after doctor invoices, pain days synchronized with billing weeks. The fraud wasn't just financial, it was narrative. At 10:15 p.m., I heard her phone buzz in the bedroom. I don't snoop, I verify. I waited until she fell asleep, then walked quietly to the doorway. The screen glowed faintly. Message preview. Same time tomorrow? The contact name was S. Wellness. I stepped back into the hall, notebook in hand, and wrote exactly what I saw. 10:15 p.m. Text from S. Wellness. Message, same time tomorrow. The next morning, October 25th, the mail arrived with a thick envelope from our insurance provider. Inside were the long-awaited explanation of benefits statements. I opened the first page. The lines of data looked ordinary until I noticed the repetition. Identical home visit times logged every Thursday at 2:30 p.m. for nearly a year. But the insurer had marked several of them. No patient at home, GPS mismatch. My pulse steadied instead of racing. Proof had rhythm too. I called Carla. Got the EOBs, I said. Anything unusual? Try every line, I replied. She told me to bring copies to her office in the morning. Before bed, I sealed the originals in the fireproof box next to the neighbor's video, my journals, and the USB backup. As I turned off the lamp, Lena whispered from the dark, "You okay, Mark?" I stared at the ceiling fan, counting the slow rotations. "I'm making sure we are," I said. The fan clicked once, like punctuation. That night I dreamed of ledgers, not faces. 2 columns stretching forever, care and contradiction. Every line balancing perfectly. When liars feel you measuring, they start shrinking. By October 26th, the house felt smaller, but not from the walls closing in, just the lies losing their air. The envelope of EOBs sat on my desk like a detonator. Each page showed Dr. Pritchard's home visit billed at 2:30 p.m. Thursdays, like clockwork. But the insurer had quietly flagged them. No patient at home, GPS mismatch. I underlined those words in red ink, one by one, until the page looked like it was bleeding. I called Marisol, the claims rep who had sent them. She listened patiently, the kind of calm that sounds like someone who's seen too much. "Mr. Ellison, if you can share copies of your invoices, we'll cross-verify. Our Special Investigations Unit might want to take a look." SIU, I repeated. "Yes, sir. If the charges were fraudulent, they'll open a case." That was the first time someone besides me used the word fraud. I scanned the papers into my laptop, labeled the folder Careproof, and sent it off. It felt almost sinful how good it felt, like breathing for the first time after 30 years underwater. That night, I slid the fireproof box under my bed, wrapped in a towel like it was something sacred. Lena was already in bed, pretending to read. "You're up late," she murmured. "Paperwork," I said. "About what?" "Bills, you know. Just keeping track." She didn't look up, but her thumb stopped on the same page for 5 full minutes. By October 28th, she'd noticed my new habits, the folders, the scanning, the quiet. "Mark, what's with the files?" she asked over breakfast. "You going accountant on me?" "Just organizing," I said. "You know how I get this time of year." She laughed lightly, but her eyes stayed on my face too long, searching for the edge she couldn't see. That night, after she went to bed, I heard the faint beep-beep of the garage keypad once, twice, then silence. I looked at my phone's app. 2 failed attempts at 1:14 a.m., again at 1:16, wrong code. Someone had tried to open it. I wrote it down in my caretaker journal, neat block letters, no emotion. The next morning, she asked, "Did you reset the keypad again?" "I couldn't get it to open last night." My heart skipped, but I didn't flinch. "Must be glitching," I said. She shrugged. "Maybe the battery." I smiled. "Maybe." Meanwhile, Deshaun kept feeding me photos. On October 30th, he texted an image. Lena walking out of Sunrise Wellness, carrying a gym bag. Same leggings, same shoes, same man beside her. Only this time, the timestamp on the photo read 2:32 p.m., the exact minute a home visit had been billed on her medical invoice. I sent the image to Carla and Ruth in a group email titled Proof of Pattern. Within the hour, Ruth called. "You ready for me to pull all the withdrawals for this quarter?" "Yes," I said. "Every cent tied to Sunrise Wellness." She found 4 cash withdrawals in late September, $8,000 total. "Always same branch," she added. "Always Fridays before the 2:30 billing." I started to see the shape of the operation now. Pritchard billed the insurer. Lena transferred funds to the shell company. Tommy pocketed the rest. A perfect little circle powered by pity. November 3rd, Carla drafted subpoenas for bank accounts, gym check-ins, Pritchard's appointment logs, and the Sunrise Wellness ledger. She wanted Lena's medical records preserved before anyone could alter them. The key here is restraint, she reminded me. The judge will respect that. But inside, I was done with restraint. I wanted daylight. By November 10th, the storm I'd been building started to show. That morning, Lena changed the garage code again without telling me. I found out when my own keypad flashed invalid. That night, I entered the garage through the side door. On her SUV's passenger seat lay a folded gym towel and a membership tag from Riverside Athletic Club. I took a photo. The date on the back of the tag, issued June 2021, the same month Sunrise Wellness started billing. At dinner, she asked, "You're quiet again." I said, "Maybe I'm finally hearing myself think." She didn't like that. "You're making me nervous, Mark." I looked up from my plate. "Good, then we're even." Later I emailed Carla, ready for next step. "No confrontation, just control." She replied within minutes. "We'll need your signature for the court hearing date, January 9th. Investigator Morales from the insurer's SIU called that same week. "Mr. Ellison, we've reviewed your documents. We may have a billing irregularity worth pursuing. Are you willing to cooperate?" "Yes," I said. "Every step of the way." I didn't sleep that night. Not because of fear, but because of clarity. I knew what needed to happen and how long it would take. Before I turned off the lamp, I opened a fresh notebook, the last one in the stack, and wrote on the first page in thick blue ink, "Justice is patient, but it remembers the date." I underlined the date, November 10th, because the next time Lena tried to unlock that garage door, she wouldn't just open steel, she'd open a timeline built to collapse right on top of her. The truth doesn't knock, it serves you papers. On the grey morning of December 3rd, my phone buzzed at 8:42 a.m., the call that tipped the scales. "Mr. Ellison, this is Investigator Morales from the insurer's SIU, he said. "Preliminary review suggests your wife's provider is routing payments through a shell company called Sunrise Wellness LLC. The deposits end up in a personal account belonging to Thomas Hale." I didn't say anything for a few seconds. The silence must have sounded heavy through the line. Morales continued, "We'll be forwarding our findings to the State Medical Board. I'll keep you updated." I thanked him, hung up, and sat there staring at the bills fanned across my table. Every signature, every "thank you for caring for my wife" check suddenly looked like a laugh line carved into my face. At 12:10 p.m., Deshawn texted me 2 photos from his stakeout. Riverside Athletic Club, Lena Ellison. 20-minute treadmill session. No cane, no brace. The timestamp, 6:12 p.m., matched a text Lena had sent me that same evening. "Rough day. Legs useless. Home soon." When she came through the door, I watched her set the cane against the wall before remembering to limp. "Rough day," she said again. I only nodded. The next morning, December 4th, Carla called me into her office. She spread folders across her mahogany desk like playing cards. "Mark, Morales' findings help us. The medical board will want to cooperate. But remember, your goal is a clean record, not blood." "I know," I said. "I just want daylight." She slid a printed subpoena draft toward me. "We'll need the judge's signature within 10 days. I'm also sending preservation notices to Dr. Pritchard and Sunrise Wellness. They're not allowed to destroy any records now." I signed. Each stroke of my pen felt like I was cutting a rope that had been strangling me for 30 years. On December 12th, another letter arrived, embossed with Pritchard Medical Group's crest. "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Ellison, as of January 1st, our concierge plan will transition to our new partner, Sunrise Wellness LLC. Please sign and return the enclosed consent form." The audacity made me laugh. They were still recruiting victims while the investigation was live. I scanned the letter and emailed it straight to Morales. His reply came in 10 minutes flat. Perfect evidence. "Keep the original sealed." That night, I rehearsed my testimony out loud while washing dishes. "Yes, Your Honor, I cared for my wife for 30 years. Yes, I paid every invoice personally. Yes, she was recorded walking unaided." The words felt mechanical but honest. I practiced again the next night until I could say them without shaking. Ruth came by on December 15th with something that almost stopped my heart. A bank slip showing the cumulative total of our medical expenses, $696,842. She said softly, "That's your pension, Mark. 30 years of loyalty priced like a luxury car." I nodded. Now, it's evidence. The first snow of winter hit Columbus on December 18th. I remember because I was sitting at the kitchen table when Lena walked in and saw the stack of papers, the bank slip on top, Deshawn's printed photos beneath, and the paused video from Mrs. Nguyen's doorbell cam, frozen on my laptop screen. She stopped mid-step. "What is all this?" "Proof," I said simply. Her voice went brittle. "After all I've endured, you think I'd fake that?" I pointed to the screen. "Your endurance has timestamps." She didn't speak again. She turned, walked to the bedroom, and closed the door with a quiet finality that sounded a lot like strategy. 2 days later, Carla confirmed the court date, January 9th, 2025. "It'll be quick," she said. "Facts are clean, papers heavy. Judges like heavy paper." Outside, snow kept falling, steady and straight. I sat by the window and watched it cover the driveway where the whole truth had first been caught. 42 seconds that rewrote 30 years. I locked the fireproof box, checked the garage keypad one last time, and whispered to the empty room, "You wanted a performance. Lena, now it's opening night. The act ends there. The calm before the courtroom. The air full of snow and evidence, waiting for the gavel that would finally sound like closure. I didn't come to win. I came to stop losing. January 9th, 2025. The morning was bone cold, 26 degrees in Columbus, the kind of chill that finds every crack in an old man's resolve. I parked outside Franklin County Domestic Relations Court and sat in the truck for a minute longer than I needed to. My palms left fog prints on the steering wheel. I'd spent 30 years caring for Lena, and all I wanted now was the truth, to stand on its own 2 feet, something she hadn't done honestly in a long time. When I finally walked through the double doors, the smell hit first, old paper, coffee, and disinfectant. My lawyer, Carla Reyes, waved me over. "You ready?" she asked quietly. "As I'll ever be," she smiled a little. "Good. Don't speak unless I ask you to. You've already done the hardest part, surviving." The courtroom wasn't what movies promised. No mahogany drama. Just grey carpet, humming lights, and a tired judge who looked like he'd seen every kind of heartbreak the Midwest could manufacture. The clerk called the case, Ellison versus Ellison. Lena sat at the far end of the table, a beige shawl draped over her shoulders, a cane propped carefully beside her. She looked fragile, composed. If you didn't know better, you'd have offered her a chair. Tommy Hale wasn't there. His subpoena had been accepted, but he hadn't shown. His absence said plenty. Carla stood. "Your Honor, this is a case of misrepresentation, medical, financial, and marital. We'll demonstrate that Mrs. Ellison, with the help of a concierge physician and a third party, fabricated a long-term illness for profit and control." The judge nodded. "Proceed." Carla pressed play on the video. Mrs. Nguyen's doorbell footage filled the small screen on the evidence cart. There it was again, 9:18 p.m., October 12th, 2024. Lena walking down our driveway, ponytail swaying, laugh bright in the cold air, sliding into the SUV like she'd done it 100 times. No cane, no hesitation. The courtroom fell still, the way people do when they recognize something too human to look away from. The clip ended. The judge looked up. "That's your wife?" "Yes, Your Honor. Your testimony is that she was claiming physical incapacity?" "For 30 years, I said quietly. I carried her bags, her pills, her excuses." Carla began laying out the financials, Ruth's spreadsheets projected on the monitor, neat and damning. "Transfers to Sunrise Wellness LLC, $150 every other Friday. Concierge retainer fees, cash withdrawals, $8,000 across September. Then the bank slip, $690,842 in cumulative expenses since 2010. Carla's voice was calm. Surgical. Next came Investigator Morales from the Insurance SIU. He testified that Dr. Pritchard's clinic had billed for home visits that never occurred. Our GPS verification showed patient absent during claimed appointments, he said, gesturing to the highlighted EOBs. We've referred the matter to the State Medical Board, Deshawn's turn. He submitted photos from Riverside Athletic Club, Lena running on a treadmill, laughing with Tommy Hale. Dates and times matched the billed visits. Carla turned to me. Mr. Ellison, did you ever authorize these payments or transfers? No, I said. I just signed checks for my wife's care. I believed every story she told me. Then it was Lena's lawyer's turn, a younger man with a sharp suit and a smirk too quick for sincerity. Mrs. Ellison has suffered for years, he began. We'll show that Mr. Ellison's obsessive need for control caused psychological strain, manifesting as physical symptoms. His so-called evidence, he gestured toward the table, is the product of paranoia, not fact. Carla waited, hands folded. Would your client please stand just for clarity? She asked. The lawyer hesitated, then nodded to Lena. She gripped her cane, stood, and took a slow step forward. The judge watched. Ma'am, can you walk a few steps closer to the bench? Lena took 2 dramatic steps, then winced, hand on her back. It's unpredictable, she whispered. Carla clicked her laptop. Your Honor, permission to replay the final 10 seconds of the video? The judge nodded. The screen flickered. There she was. Same woman, same body, pivoting gracefully, laughing, sliding into the SUV. The contrast said more than any closing argument could. The judge leaned back. I've seen enough, he murmured. Carla approached the bench with the final exhibit, Tommy Hale's bank records obtained via subpoena. Deposits from Sunrise Wellness LLC, matching every one of Lena's transfers. These, Carla said, arrived in his account within 48 hours of her withdrawals. Lena's lawyer tried to object, but the judge waved him off. You can't cross-examine math, counselor. The room went still again. Lena stared at the tabletop, jaw tight. I couldn't tell if it was shame or calculation behind her eyes. Carla finished gently. Your Honor, my client is not vindictive. He's a man who spent 3 decades serving a fiction. Today, he simply asks that his honesty be given the same weight as her deceit. The judge looked at me. Mr. Ellison, anything you'd like to add? I stood. Just one thing, Your Honor. I didn't come here to punish her. I came here to stop being punished. The judge's pen moved across the page. He spoke as he wrote. Temporary financial restraining order granted. Joint assets frozen pending audit. Defendant barred from transfers or withdrawals. State Medical Board referral approved. He looked up. We'll reconvene for final orders on January 30th. The gavel came down, not with a bang, but a thud, like a door closing on a long hallway. As the bailiff gathered the exhibits, Carla whispered, That's as clean a win as you could hope for. Outside, the wind hit my face like cold water. Ruth was waiting by the curb with 2 styrofoam coffees. She handed me one. You did good, Mark. Feels strange, I said. Like winning a funeral. Snow was starting again, soft and steady. Mrs. Nguyen had texted me earlier, good luck today. Justice likes the truth. Carla joined us, tugging her scarf tighter. You handled yourself with grace. Some men would have shouted. You let the evidence speak. I've shouted enough in my head for both of us, I said. We stood there for a moment, the courthouse behind us glowing against the gray sky. Somewhere in that building, a box of papers now told the story of my life. And for the first time in 30 years, I realized the silence around me wasn't loneliness. It was peace, practicing how to stay. When the performance ends, the props look cheap. The day after court, I woke up before sunrise. For 30 years, my mornings had belonged to someone else, to pill bottles, doctor calls, and soft footsteps on carpet. That Friday, January 10th, I woke to quiet and didn't know what to do with it. The house smelled like dust and paper. No pill organizer on the table. No, Mark, could you help me? Floating down the hallway. Just the truth, still settling into the walls. Lena stayed in the guest room now. We barely spoke, which was safer for both of us. She'd traded her cane for a new prop, wearing an oversized wrist brace, as if she could reinvent sympathy by swapping accessories. Every performance needs costume changes, I guess. On the counter sat a letter from the State Medical Board of Ohio, stamped with a blue seal. I tore it open carefully. The way you handle something that could rewrite your life again. Dear Mr. Ellison, we acknowledge receipt of your submitted materials and video evidence. The matter involving Pritchard Medical Group and affiliated entities is under formal review. Please retain all related documents until notified. I ran my fingers over the words, formal review. They felt heavier than they should. This wasn't rumor anymore. It was record. I boxed up the duplicate invoices, sealed them with tape, labeled the lid, "Do not destroy, under investigation." Then I called Investigator Morales. "Got your acknowledgement?" he asked. "Just now." "Good. We're interviewing Dr. Pritchard next week. Keep everything locked up." "It's in the fireproof box," I said. He chuckled softly. "Good man. Keep that habit. Paper doesn't lie." On January 12th, I went out to shovel the driveway. Mrs. Nguyen waved from her porch, bundled in 3 scarves. "Heard things went your way," she called out. "Still going?" I said. "But yes, we're getting there." She smiled and handed me a small envelope. Inside was a printed still frame from her doorbell video, Lena mid-step, mid-laughter. "You might need it again," she said. "And this way it's yours." I thanked her. That 42 seconds had become a lifetime warranty on my sanity. Back inside, I checked my phone. 3 new texts from unknown numbers. "You didn't have to humiliate me. They'll believe me over you eventually. Hope it was worth it. No name, but I didn't need one." I screenshotted each, date-stamped them and forwarded them to Carla. Her reply was instant. "Save everything. Say nothing." The next few days passed in a blur of small victories. January 14th, the bank confirmed the HELOC, the home equity line Lena had secretly drawn from, was now solely under my control. The account showed an attempted withdrawal 2 days earlier, blocked by the court order. The system flagged it as unauthorized activity. I didn't even feel anger anymore, just confirmation that truth keeps receipts. January 18th. Ruth dropped by with 2 mugs of black coffee and her audit notes. "You know," she said, "you could file a civil claim for restitution on top of the divorce." "I don't want her money," I said. "I just want mine back," she nodded. "Same thing, technically." That night I finally opened the bedroom windows. The air that came in was sharp and new. I left the blinds open. For years, Lena said she preferred them closed because the sun hurt her eyes. Turns out, she just didn't like being seen. On January 20th, I had my first appointment with a therapist named Elaine, something Carla had suggested to keep the court narrative clean. She had kind eyes and an office full of fake plants. "What do you want to work on?" she asked. "Learning to live without guilt," I said. Guilt for what?" "For believing someone I loved," I said. "And for still caring a little even after I stopped loving her?" She nodded. "That's not guilt, Mark. That's being human." When I left her office, I drove by the gym on East 11th. The Sunrise Wellness sign had been taken down. The windows were papered over. There was an orange city notice taped to the door. "Premises closed. Pending investigation." It was strange how quietly justice moved. No sirens, no shouting, just paper, seals, signatures, and silence. That night I sat at the kitchen table and looked around. No canes, no pill bottles, no performance. Just me, a cooling mug of coffee, and the furnace humming its 2 kicks before catching. For the first time in 30 years, the sound didn't make me sad. It made me grateful. When my phone buzzed again, another text from an unknown number, I didn't even open it. I powered the phone off, locked the fireproof box, and said out loud to no one in particular, "The show's over. Lena." Then I turned off the lights and let the quiet keep me company. Justice doesn't fix the past. It just stops it from repeating. January 30th, 2025. The sky over Columbus was a clear, hard blue, the kind that feels like glass when you breathe. It was the morning of our final hearing, and this time I didn't bring nerves with me. I brought paper, a lifetime of it. Carla met me at the courthouse steps, her briefcase snapping shut like punctuation. "You ready?" she asked. "I've been ready since October," I said. Inside, the air was warmer than it had any right to be. The same judge presided, same clerk, same courtroom hum. But the mood was different now, quieter, settled. On one side of the aisle sat Lena, dressed in grey, Kane beside her again. On the other side, me and Carla. Between us, a table piled high with documents, still smelling faintly of toner and truth. When the clerk called our case, the judge adjusted his glasses. "I've reviewed the evidence, the testimony, and the findings from both the medical board and the insurer," he said. "The record is clear." He paused, glancing toward Lena. "There was deception, sustained, deliberate deception." He began to read his findings. "This court grants equitable division, weighted heavily in favor of the petitioner. Mr. Ellison, the marital home shall remain solely in his name. All joint accounts, including the home equity line of credit, are hereby transferred to his control. The respondent, Mrs. Ellison, is barred from drawing against any shared assets pending restitution." Each word landed like the slow tolling of a bell. Carla placed a steady hand on my arm. "That's the win," she whispered. The judge continued. "Regarding the allegations of fraudulent billing, this court refers the matter to the State Medical Board and the Department of Insurance for further action. Pending those findings, spousal support is reserved. Additionally, restitution is ordered for the improper transfers to Sunrise Wellness LLC." He set his pen down, eyes softer now. "Mr. Ellison, I believe you carried a weight no one should have to carry. You've done so with restraint and dignity. The law may not heal betrayal, but it can at least acknowledge it. All I could manage was a nod. When the gavel came down, it didn't sound like victory. It sounded like release. Lena didn't look at me when the bailiff handed her the paperwork. She just whispered something to her lawyer and stared at her lap. The cane stayed leaned against the bench. I wondered if she'd even remember to take it. Outside, the cold wind met me like an old friend. Carla walked beside me down the courthouse steps. "It's done," she said. "You can breathe now." "I think I forgot how," I admitted. Ruth was waiting near the curb with a thermos of coffee and a smile that reached her eyes. "Well?" she asked. "Judge gave me the house, the accounts, and some peace," she exhaled. "About time." We stood there watching people hurry past, none of them knowing that my whole life had just been redrawn inside that grey building. A few minutes later, Investigator Morales stepped out, coat collar up against the wind. "Ellison," he called. "Medical board's moving fast. Dr. Pritchard's under review. Sunrise Wellness is frozen out. Looks like this might even go criminal." I nodded. "Good. Maybe someone else won't fall for the same story." He shook my hand firmly. "You did right. That video saved more than just your case. When I got home, I brewed a single cup of coffee, first one in a kitchen that finally felt like mine. No second mug, no pillbox beside the sugar jar. I walked to the window and watched snowflakes drift across the driveway where Mrs. Nguyen's camera had caught the truth. I opened the fireproof box one last time. Inside sat the journals, the receipts, the bank slips, and the printed still frame of Lena walking free. I didn't need them anymore, but I kept them, not as evidence now, but as a reminder that even lies leave footprints. Before bed, I wrote in the last page of my caretaker journal, "Justice doesn't return what's lost. It just stops the theft from continuing." Then I locked the box, turned off the lights, and let the quiet of an honest house settle around me. Freedom is heavy until you carry it a while. February came to Columbus with grey skies and puddles that froze overnight. The snow had melted, but the silence stayed, a different kind this time. Not the hush of tension or secrets, but the kind of quiet you earn. I woke on February 1st and realized I didn't have to check on anyone. No pill timers, no doctor calls, no pharmacy runs. I brewed one cup of coffee, just mine, and left the second mug in the cabinet where it belonged. The house smelled different too, dust, wood polish, and something like relief. I spent that weekend rearranging things. The walker went to Goodwill. The pill organizer, the heating pads, and the unopened bottles of muscle relaxants all followed. I replaced them with books, tools, and a new radio. On the living room wall, I hung a framed photo Ruth gave me, the sunrise over Lake Erie. She'd written under it, your kind of wellness. By February 5th, I'd taken a maintenance job at the community center, 20 hours a week, enough to keep my hands busy. The director, Mr. Caldwell, handed me a ring of keys. "You the kind of man who fixes things quietly?" he asked. "I've had practice," I said. The first day, a man in a wheelchair asked if I could lower the paper towel dispenser. I took out my screwdriver, loosened 2 bolts, and moved it down 6 inches. "Better?" I asked. He smiled. "Perfect." It felt good to fix something that actually stayed fixed. I met with therapist Elaine every Thursday. She had this habit of asking one question and letting the silence do the work. "How's the house feel?" she asked one afternoon. "Like it's finally telling the truth," I said. "That's a good sign," she replied. Houses, remember? One evening I came home to find a letter from the bank, official and thick. I opened it carefully, expecting trouble, but instead found peace, confirmation that the HELOC was officially reinstated in my name alone. Ruth had highlighted the line that read, "Account ownership sole." She'd drawn a little smiley face beside it. I laughed out loud, first real laugh in months. Around February 10th, Carla called to check in. "Pritchard's license is suspended pending review," she said. "And Tommy Hale's gym is closed indefinitely. Justice moves like winter," I told her. "Slow but thorough," she chuckled. "You should write that down." "I already did," I said, glancing at my caretaker journal. The black one now retired in the fireproof box. I still thought of Lena sometimes, not with love, not even with hate, just curiosity. What do people like her do when the show ends and there's no audience left? I imagined her somewhere rehearsing a new act, a new story, maybe a new man to believe it. I hoped in a strange way she found something honest, even if it was loneliness. On February 14th, Ruth came over with takeout and 2 slices of pie. "You're officially single," she teased. "Valentine's Day calls for celebration." "Pie's good enough," I said. She raised her fork. "To freedom." I clinked my glass of water against hers. "To proof." After she left, I stood by the window and watched snow start falling again, thin, slow flakes over the same driveway where truth first revealed itself. The light from Mrs. Ungion's porch flickered like an old friend waving across the dark. I realized I didn't need revenge anymore. I'd already traded it for something sturdier, peace that had been earned line by line, receipt by receipt, truth by truth. Before going to bed, I opened my notebook, the new one labeled After. On the first page, I wrote, "If trust is a currency, I've stopped lending mine without collateral." Then I closed it, turned off the lights, and slept the kind of sleep that doesn't ask for explanation. Some lies die loud, others die of silence. By March, the snow had mostly gone, leaving behind those ugly grey mounds that refused to melt, the kind that hang around long after winter's supposed to be over. I'd started calling them truth piles because, like the truth, they don't go away just because you stop looking at them. Life had settled into a pattern again, but this time it was mine. I woke early, fixed the porch light Mrs. Nguyen had been nagging about, and made coffee while the morning news mumbled in the background. The house creaked honestly now. No pretense, no rehearsed sighs from the next room. Then, one afternoon around March 6th, I opened the mailbox and found a postcard. No return address, just a P.O. box from Dayton. The handwriting was unmistakable, Lena's looping script, still too elegant for its meaning. "You didn't have to do this," it read. No name, no plea. Just that single sentence, heavy with unfinished thoughts. I stared at it for a long time before sliding it into the fireproof box between the journals and the printed photo of her walking free. Not out of fear, not even out of anger, just record-keeping. Truth deserves to stay catalogued. That evening I took a walk around the block. Mrs. Nguyen was out trimming her hedges. "Cold for March," she said. "Feels cleaner this way," I told her. She smiled. "Sometimes clean hurts first." Later that night she texted me a short doorbell video, snowflakes swirling under the porch light, no people in frame. "This one's prettier," she wrote. She was right. It was just the world being honest again. I kept thinking about Lena's note. "You didn't have to do this." Maybe not. But I had to stop being part of the lie. 30 years of caretaking had made me an expert in endurance, but not in boundaries. I'd mistaken sacrifice for love and silence for peace. Now, I understood better. Love without truth is just theater. And I'd been the stagehand cleaning up after someone else's performance. By mid-March, Ruth helped me set up online banking, something I'd always left to Lena. I clicked through the accounts and saw every balance, every dollar in black and white. No ghosts in the numbers anymore. On March 18th, Carla called. Final word came in. Dr. Pritchard surrendered his license. The insurer's pressing charges against Sunrise Wellness for fraud. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. So it's over. It's over, she said. Officially. That weekend I went through the fireproof box one last time. I didn't burn anything. I didn't throw it away. I just labeled it neatly, the years of proof. Then I locked it and slid it back under the bed. I sat by the window with my coffee and looked out at the street. Kids on bikes, a mail truck idling, Mrs. Nguyen waving from her porch. Ordinary life. The kind I'd missed while living in someone else's crisis. The sunlight hit the spot on the driveway where the 42-second truth had first played out. I realized that moment hadn't destroyed me. It had released me, I whispered into the quiet house. You didn't lose me, Lena. You gave me away, then softer, to myself. And I finally took myself back. That's how this story ends. No fireworks? No revenge served cold. Just truth cooling slowly into something steady. If you're listening and your house feels too quiet, check your locks. Check your ledgers. Check your heart. And if something doesn't add up, don't wait 30 years to balance it. Justice isn't about punishing someone else. It's about freeing yourself to live without flinching. And in the end, I learned something simple and final. Some betrayals burn your house down. Others clean your windows. You just have to decide which kind of smoke you want to live with.